One of the largest trauma facilities in the United States is a ship. It's the USS Comfort. It's 900 feet long. It's got 12 operating rooms, got 1,000 beds. It was built to handle large-scale disasters. Over the weekend, you might have seen the name of the USS Comfort when Hillary Clinton tweeted some advice to the U.S. government about the ongoing disaster in Puerto Rico. She said, quote, President Trump, Secretary Mattis, and DOD should send the Navy, including the USS Comfort, to Puerto Rico now. These are American citizens. Well, tonight, almost a full week after disaster struck, that is precisely what is happening. The Comfort is now being deployed from Norfolk, Virginia, to Puerto Rico, where 3.5 million Americans are on the brink, or in some cases in the midst of a humanitarian crisis that does not seem to be getting better. Hurricane Maria hit Puerto Rico a week ago tomorrow. The Navy says the Comfort will set sail sometime in the next 4 days. It takes 5 days to get there. So that means in 9 days or so, the Comfort will reach Puerto Rico, where they've already been living in the darkness for nearly a week, which means 3.5 million Americans are going to have a new form of help when that gets there. But in the meantime, wait. And that is something they've been doing a lot of lately. Puerto Ricans have been waiting for food and for water. According to the Defense Department, nearly half of the population of Puerto Rico still does not have drinking water. And again, this is 6 days in. People have been waiting at the airport, lining up, waiting hours, hoping to get out on one of the few commercial flights out. And in another cruel twist, we're told today that a lot of the planes that have been leaving that airport have been leaving with empty seats on them, because the airport computers that control things like baggage and issue boarding passes, those computers are still out because the hurricane crippled the power grid. And so people haven't been able to get onto the planes that are leaving the airport, even though they're stacked up in the airport trying desperately to get out. On the island, people are waiting for fuel. People are specifically waiting for fuel to keep their generators running, because that's the only power. But what if those powers are their only power source in a hospital, right? In a hospital, keeping the diesel generators running quickly becomes a question of life and death. And that's happening on the ground, not just in remote areas in Puerto Rico, but also in the capital city of San Juan, which is a cosmopolitan, densely populated place. According to FEMA, of the 69 hospitals on the island, 58 of them lack sufficient power and fuel to keep operating. At one hospital, fuel deliveries are being made by armed guards because fuel is so precious, they're very worried about the risk of looting. On Monday, the generator at one San Juan hospital did run out of fuel. When it did, 2 patients in the intensive care unit died. Those deaths are being attributed to the generator running out of fuel. So life support machines stopped running. That's according to San Juan's mayor, Carmen Cruz, who we have seen the last few days going from house to house in waders and by boat, trying to do her best to help her city survive this catastrophe. I should mention they are a competing news organization, but hats off to CBS, which had a remarkably moving interview with her earlier today.
2 people died yesterday because there was no diesel in the place that they were at.
Where did this happen?
In San Juan.
But where was it?
Hospital.
They died in the hospital because there wasn't diesel?
There's no diesel, there's no life support system. And I don't know how else to scream and shout and you know, say it. This is the time for action. Let's not talk about the debt. The freaking debt. Let's talk about the deaths that will not happen if things do not get into people's hands now.
Joining us now from San Juan is the mayor of that city, Carmen Cruz. Mayor Cruz, thank you so much for joining us. I know you have the world on your shoulders tonight. Thank you for being here.
Thank you very much for giving me an opportunity to put a voice to thousands of people out there that may think that we are in the brink, as you mentioned, that we are in the midst of a terrifying humanitarian crisis that is taking lives. And if things are difficult in San Juan, the conditions are dire, horrific outside of the metropolitan San Juan area. There are S.O.S. Mayday calls. I'm getting texts every day saying, if anyone can read this, if anyone can hear me, cries for help. But when we get to today, Ms. Maddow, we visited 3 retirement homes. And as you walked in, people would jump and shout from their windows asking for help. These are people that have been left alone. They cannot walk. The elevator isn't working. The water isn't pumping because there's no energy. They cannot cook, so they have no water. Since yesterday, we have had to transport 20 people from different retirement home centers. And you ask yourself, well, there are boots on the ground. I see the FEMA people work very hard in meetings and getting the logistics together, but those boots needs to start walking, and we need to start getting the supplies and the food and the water, just something as simple as drinking water. Electricity will not be here for another 6 months, and it is true. The power grid was very weakened before that, but we have no power grid at this point. So we are running from one place to another, canvassing and making sure that we find people alive before it is too late, and that is not a hyperbole. It is a fact of life in San Juan and in the rest of Puerto Rico.
Mayor Cruz, you raised the alarm today about what's the condition in the hospitals. Obviously, there are several dozen hospitals on Puerto Rico, and FEMA is saying that dozens of them, most of them, do not have sufficient power or fuel to power generators. Obviously, the worry, even with the overall humanitarian concern, is that those could become mass casualty situations if people who are in hospital, confined to hospital, aren't able to rely on the machines and the need for power that's keeping them alive. Is there any sort of crisis plan about at least fueling the hospitals?
Well, I was told today by some FEMA employees that came to visit San Juan, which I really appreciate all they're doing. And we have a group of 25 logistics and firemen from New York City that Mayor Bill de Blasio and Melissa Mark Villarito sent. We got some aid from Chicago, Mayor Rahm Emanuel and Congressman Luis Gutierrez. But what is happening, and I was told by one of the children's hospital that deals basically with cancer patients, small children's hospital, which are cancer patients, is that the Army informed them while we were on our way to put fuel on their tanks that they had taken over the process of putting fuel in every hospital tank. So that is really good. Ourselves, we energized with 4 generators today, another hospital, just to make sure, the lines get really blurred here. The red tape has to be ripped off as if it was a Band-Aid. People keep asking for memos. Write me a memo, for heaven's sake. Write me a memo. Ask me for what you need. Well, I'm going to tell you what we need. We need diesel. We need gas. We need running water. We need some sort of way for people to find their way around. And we need our hospitals not to become death traps. So this is a big SOS for anybody out there. And I thank you so much, Ms. Maddow, that you're giving me this opportunity. We need to be less preoccupied and become more occupied. Just do what we need to do to get these boots on the ground doing what they love to do and supporting the people the way they want to support the people. You can see it in their faces, their frustration as they want to move ahead and do what they have to do, but somehow that isn't happening.
Mayor Cruz, let me just make sure I understand where you're saying the problem is in terms of that federal response and those responders that have turned up. You're saying essentially you've got good people on the ground who are trying to do this work, but the chain of command is kind of clogged, that there's something happening in terms of people getting actually deployed, people getting orders to get out there and do the work?
Absolutely. They're here. They want to do. I had 80 HHS Health and Human Services doctors and nurses and medics, and then the next day another 80 at the Coliseum, and they stood there for 2 days waiting for their marching orders. They're great people. Wow. Their commanding officers were experienced people, professional people, committed people. They're just waiting for those orders to start moving, and we need. This isn't an issue of being poetic or trying to paint a picture of something horrific. This is a call to action, a plea for this help that is right here to get moving and get to where it's supposed to be.
San Juan Mayor Carmen Yulin Cruz, I really, really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us tonight. We will do whatever we can to echo and enlarge what you're saying, but please keep us apprised what we can let people know and how we can help.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Wow. More ahead here tonight. Stay with us.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.